So European drill is just as brutal as Chicago drill, New York drill, Philly drill. At this point, as long as I say the word, I'm going to find who I'm looking for. Just like when you start talking those words, you're going to find what you're looking for. You know what I'm saying? So we're about to watch this video together. We're going to watch it to the end. We're going to get straight into it. Man, let me know how y'all doing, man. Drop me a comment or something.
The son of a famous actress being kidnapped, set free, and then executed, all allegedly from a hit someone sent sitting in a jail cell in Sweden to a shootout in front of a recording studio in Milan. This is the brutal world of European drill. Now, I won't be including the UK on this for two reasons. One, since Brexit, the UK is not really a part of Europe. I mean, the closest European country to the UK is France, and it's well known that the French and the English specifically haven't gotten along in over 700 years. And two, UK drill is basically New York drill with more knives. We already know way more of what's going on in the UK than we do in the rest of Europe. Drill has spread far since breaking out of Chicago, from the frozen shores of Sweden to the Mediterranean coastline in Italy. Now, as I covered in my older video about Sweden, the country has become a hotspot for gang violence, gun crimes, and even bombings directly related to these gang wars. And this makes Sweden very unique in that sense, as despite its gangs being smaller in numbers than gangs in the UK and the US, they tend to be much more brutal, with their tactics sometimes resembling the era of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, where through guerrilla warfare, the IRA shot mortars at prime ministers and even assassinated a member of the British royal family when his fishing boat was rigged with an explosive. Now, with rap almost becoming synonymous with criminal activity, whether it's through a rapper just trolling about it or a rapper actually admitting to crimes in each song, it's not much different on the other side of the Atlantic. Einar is a figure I covered briefly in my Sweden video, whose involvement in gangs was very confusing to me. He was a well-off kid and the son of a famous actress. He really broke into music around 2019, and it looks like right away he became associated with a crowd he had no business being a part of. According to Swedish authorities, his association with certain gang members in Stockholm angered people, specifically angered a gang known as the Varby Network, and this put a target directly on his back. Now, although it's not clear exactly who he associated with to get this target, this part of the story is at least...
I don't know. I can't see none of their faces, but they just look dangerous. I can't explain it. It's like that. You know, you ever seen like how the Russians dress? Like, he don't look like he should be that dangerous, but he look dangerous as hell. Like, they got that kind of swag. Yeah, like they definitely know how to make pipe bombs and shit like that.
Not hard to understand, as it's not much different in the US or anywhere else. When you have two groups that are at war, with losses taken on both sides, putting yourself around one group can make you the enemy of another, whether that means you've taken pictures with them or just appeared in music videos. All of these guys on the other side now know your face, and it's one they're unfamiliar with. All they know is you associate with the enemy, making you appear to be a bigger threat because they don't know who else you associate with. You could very well be close enough with someone that could set them up. So usually a message has to be sent, and that's exactly what happened. Einar was kidnapped in 2020 and extorted, but once he was let go, it appears that he failed to notice two very important events. One was that the guys that kidnapped him were caught and put on trial, and thus the police were expecting him to testify. The second is the fact that members of the Varby Network were still roaming around free, and they knew how to find him, as they already did.
The guys will come. So is this somebody talking from jail, or is they talking on Twitter? Like, this language. The guy will come when he is gone. So they about to knock him off because he's a witness on the case now? Is that what I'm understanding?
Taking these two things into consideration, he not only stayed in Stockholm despite probably having enough money to live elsewhere, but less than 30 days before his death, he released a song called Dansa, where many people believe he took a direct shot dissing the group that kidnapped him. And this initial arrest of the kidnappers, including two rival rappers, Yasin and Haval, is what led to the theory that they were somehow behind his death. Now, all of this is alleged since, as of 2025, 4 years after the murder, the case remains unsolved. But despite Einar stating he did not want to testify, there was no way to assure the Swedish police wouldn't contact him again for more information about the Varby Network. Now, many rappers have talked about sending hits from their jail cell, and although this is a crime more associated with mafia bosses, there is of course one man in drill who most likely allegedly did this in reality. Now, if you've ever heard Charleston White talk about King Von, you've probably heard him say that Von only beat the murder case that led to him being released in 2017 and linking up with Lil Durk to start his rap career was all because witnesses had been killed. Now, all of this is unverified, but King Von was originally from a hood called Killer Ward before he ever associated with O Block. and the case that Vaughn caught that saw him miss the beginning of the drill scene was a murder and 2 attempts at a birthday party. Vaughn was close friends with a guy named Boss CJ, who was from Killer Ward, and many believe that he gave a statement to the police, placing Vaughn at the scene of the crime. Now, he wasn't named in any paperwork, but it is believed that the birthday being celebrated was his, and the paperwork does say that the person giving the statement was celebrating his birthday. Now, it's important to note that whoever the witness was, he never explicitly stated Vaughn was one of the shooters, and arguably nothing helped Vaughn beat the case more than his co-defendant agreeing to testify against him while putting himself at the scene and then recanting. In fact, Vaughn was probably only brought up by the police when this statement was being made because they already believed him to be the shooter. Regardless, once something like this happens, the paperwork always gets out and people put pieces together. And just months before Vaughn's trial, CJ was killed on the north side of Chicago after someone had dropped his location. And of course, as he was known to do, Vaughn rapped several times about a witness being killed and even sending a hit from his cell. But back to Einar. The group accused of his kidnapping was all sentenced around the same time, 3 months before his mysterious death. But despite the rappers receiving sentences of less than a year, this case was just part of a larger proceeding against the Varby network, as the main component wasn't a witness against them, but messages sent through an encrypted chat. As a footballer who once played for the Swedish national team was sentenced to 11 years for aiding the kidnapping and negotiating the price for a contract killing, possibly the future murder of Einar. Another man considered to have a leadership price.
A day after the interview with Eliha Herkovic was published in Sports Blade, the former youth national football team negotiates down the price of a contract killing from 1.5 million to 1 million kroner. Now he got 11 years. How much is kroner in dollars? Hold on, y'all. We finna do this together. 1.5 million kroner to dollars. So he got him knocked off for $158,000. So he talked it down from like 150 to like 100,000.
Contract killing, possible.
So I guess football was just his side gig. He was catching hats and setting people up. It sounded like his job.
Future murder of Einar. Another man considered to have a leadership role within the group was sentenced to 17 years, as well as 24 other members being sentenced for past crimes. So this one kidnapping nearly brought down the whole network. So it's safe to say that Einar should have left Sweden probably before this trial even concluded. But in 2023, a little while after Haval's eventual release, he dropped a song called Southside, which contributed to the theory that he actually watched the execution of Einar on FaceTime. Now, it's no secret that an inmate in almost any country can get a cell phone smuggled to them by a guard, and in the song, Haval states that someone started a war with the wrong place, and after a guard smuggled him an iPhone, he watched a shooter pull out his gun and shoot someone. Now, this wouldn't seem too far-fetched, as another rapper in Sweden, Gaboro, was actually chased down and recorded by the guy that was chasing him. Regardless, no one has ever been placed in custody for this crime, and it seems that Einar was only being used by the streets, so it's unlikely that anyone even attempted to retaliate for him. A sad story that didn't have to end this way had he just chosen a different path. Now, Shiva, or Andrea Arigioni, is a popular drill rapper from Milan in Italy, who is currently serving a 6.5-year prison sentence for attempted murder. He managed to grow quite a following in the country, but what led to him having to serve time after being convicted in 2024 was allegedly a beef between his clique, known as OPPS Santana, and another well-known rapper from Milan, Rondo de Sosa. Now, if you're not from Italy, but you've seen Vice, you might recognize him from a Noisy interview he did a couple years back, and he credits himself with creating Italian drill, and he's part of a group known as 7 Zoo. Rondo and some of his associates, like a rapper called Baby Gang, are banned from performing in several venues throughout Italy, with Baby Gang even being reportedly banned from an entire city in northern Italy. And although 7 Zoo's involvement has never been proven in court, it's alleged that the 2 MMA fighters that waited for and attacked Shiva outside of a recording studio were associates of Rondo and his clique. Now, like with most of the stories we hear similar to this one, he and Rondo were once associates that even collaborated on music. But one day in July 2023, at the recording studio that he founded in Settimo Milanese on the far west side of Milan, with the studio even being named Milano OPPS Santana headquarters, 2 men would watch as Shiva's driver pulled their black Range Rover into a parking lot before they both popped out from behind the gate. And once Shiva had gotten out of the car wearing brass knuckles, they apparently fractured his jaw. But shortly after, Shiva would retrieve an illegal firearm he bought from an unnamed security guard and fire at his attackers, striking both in the legs. Now, despite the clear self-defense situation, there must not be a mutual combatants law in Italy like, say, the one in Illinois, as despite the fact that he was attacked and clearly fired non-lethal shots, rather than being charged with aggravated assault, he was charged and convicted of attempted murder, possibly due to the firearm being illegal, as well as the court arguing that Shiva's gang apparently had a bag containing ammunition, as well as a silencer at the scene of the crime, proving that he was possibly a danger to society. Still though, he received much less time for 2 attempted murders that you would ever get in the United States.
So I honestly think that's 100% self-defense. I guess they must have ran into him at his gang headquarters. So I don't know why you will run up on your top op with some brass knuckles. Now that's some European shit. You gonna go punch on the op? And you caught him loafing? And then he runs and goes and gets his stick and then walks you down. So now both y'all gotta walk with a limp to tell a story. But the fact that he went to jail and got years for this after being a rich and famous rapper, which means he probably had the money for a good lawyer, it just don't matter there, it's insane. I don't think that's fair, but it's probably just paying for the other things that he was doing as well.
Moving on, the French drill scene has been going on for years now, and it's just a reflection of the gang politics and instability that has plagued the country for at least 100 years at this point. From the Corsican mobsters taking over the country, the North African gangs controlling the drug trade, and even the most powerful mob in the world, the 'Ndrangheta, operating from Sicily to Paris. And this brings us to a rapper named MHD. Born in Vendée, France, in the prefecture of La Roche-Saunier, his story is one of success and tragedy, as he would go from the halls of Elise Palace, a former royal residence for the House of Orleans that has since been converted into the home of the president. He was personally invited by the French president to meet foreign dignitaries, but now he's serving time in prison for murder. But before beginning his music career, MHD worked as a simple pizza delivery boy before moving up as a waiter in one of the most expensive areas in Paris, an area referred to as Luxembourg due to it being home to the beautiful Luxembourg Palace, which is the seat of the French Senate, not to be confused with the country of Luxembourg. Now, from freestyling on the internet in 2015, he gained popularity on social media, and it led to the release of his first full-length project in 2016, which sold more than 200,000 copies. He immediately became one of the most popular rappers in France, and this led to a huge deal with Puma. He even made an appearance in a French film. Ironically, in the film, MHD played a teenage boy who was being accused of murder, while he himself would be awaiting trial for murder at the time of its release. In 2017, he was invited to the presidential palace to meet the president of Guinea while he was on an official visit to France. And just 1 year after this, the fateful event that had changed his life occurred in the streets of Paris. Now, Paris is divided into several administrative districts, and one night in July of 2018, a large gang brawl will break out between gang members from the 10th district and the 19th district, with MHD hailing from the 19th. Now, it's unclear what started this fight, but 2 things that were clear to French authorities were that it was a gang conflict and that MHD's car had been witnessed at the scene. Now, MHD had never been in trouble with the law before, but likely due to the gruesome crime, his bail was denied. You see, during the fight, a 23-year-old man from the 10th district was killed, with a knife being a murder weapon. Now, initially, MHD wasn't arrested, as for the remainder of 2018, the police would have no suspects. And in September, just 2 months after the incident, MHD would announce that he was retiring from music, likely knowing what was coming. Because in January 2019, he and 8 other men would be arrested, and they would all sit for 4 years, before MHD and 5 other men were all found guilty, with 3 other men being acquitted. Now, even though he was likely not the one that used the murder weapon, he would still be given 12 years for simply participating, while the other defendants received anywhere from 10 to 18-year sentences. And despite MHD's car being found on fire in a parking lot the next day, the vehicle was caught on camera at the time of the event at the scene. Here we had a man who with just 2 albums had become a superstar, brand ambassador, and a presidential dinner guest, still being dragged down by street politics, likely just not being able to let go of where he came from, or keeping the same crowd around him that he hung around while he was a pizza delivery boy. When you reach a certain level, or even just a certain age, you can't take everyone with you, and you have to realize that. But as it is for a lot of young men, this ends up being their downfall.